Okay, moving right ahead. Next in our policy block is recommended draft policy ARIN 2019-15, hijacking authorization not intended. The advisory council shepherds are Chris Tassett and Andrew Dull. It was made into a proposal on the 6th of May this year, draft policy in June, and recommended for adoption in August. It's first time at an ARIN meeting, and the version in the manuals, your latest version, is the 22nd of July. An interesting one. Let's try this. We understand at staff that the guidance here is that addresses used incidentally are not a reassignment, okay? And that we believe that to be the intent, and that this policy clarifies that makes it more clear that IP addresses used by third parties in an incidental or transient manner must be authorized for their use. There's a question here that comes up. The draft policy talks about, the problem statement talks about the problem of whether or not when someone uses addresses, whether or not it's a hijacking or not, and that we do have cases where people use addresses for conferences and others, and this clarifies that we don't consider those cases of hijacking as long as they're being used with permission. There's no material issues, minimal input, resource impact, and we would update the guidelines. I'm now going to turn this over to Chris Tassett to do the hijacking presentation. Come on up, Chris. Yes.
Thank you very much. So as John said, this is an attempt to just make sure that there's absolute clarity on the point that if there's authorization from the person to whom resources are delegated for third-party use that's incidental or transient, that this does not result in an unauthorized it doesn't result in a reallocation or reassignment. So this is the present text right now that we have in the note in section 2.5, and these are the few words that are proposed to be added. There's no intent to change the policy from the way that it's being implemented and that it's assumed to have worked. It's merely being clarified further. We didn't see, as John said, any staff or legal concerns, and the way it's done right now is consistent with the way that staff interprets it. After we made the last round of changes, there were some previous edits to this. A handful of people chimed in on PPML and said they liked it. No opposition has been expressed, and there haven't been any comments for some time on this draft, recommended draft policy. So question is, are the amendments proposed, do they clarify the policy, and therefore should they be considered for adoption?
Okay, stay up here. We'll bring Mr. Sandiford up to moderate discussion from the queues. Go ahead, Bill.
All right. Those with comments are asked to please approach the microphone or make your comments remote. Well, this is about as exciting as John's jokes.
Don't jam up the queues at once.
All right, far microphone.
Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire. What's this fixing? I love the cleanup, Chris, don't get me wrong, but even if somebody says, this is my space, what does this have to do with policy, per se? I don't understand the problem we're fixing here. And is it that people are coming to ARIN and saying, I'm using this space, please swip it for me? I don't understand I understand being pedantic, and that's helpful, and the text makes it clearer. but the space is with an organization that has an RSA. It's their space to use. Some third party coming along doesn't have any rights to it. So I'm a little confused how this is fixing anything.
So all I can tell you, Kevin, is that we received a proposal. There's already a note clarifying what a reassignment is and isn't. The author thought that the current note could be improved because it wasn't crystal clear. It was within scope, and the problem statement was clear, so we took it on. We don't view it as any big issue or any real deviation from what's happening.
John?
So, in the definition section of the NRPM, which you have in your discussion guide, if you go to section 2.5 and you look at the last definition there, this is after allocation, assignment, reallocation, reassignment, you'll see a sentence that says, note that the incidental or transient use of address space by third parties shall not be considered a reassignment or a violation of the exclusive use criterion. There is belief on at least one member of the community's part that that's a statement endorsing you can temporarily hijack space and it's not a problem at ARIN. That the incidental or transient use of address space by a third party doesn't have to show up in the registry because this sentence is in the definitions. Got it?
So I believe this was the same author who originally proposed the addition, who was then concerned about that, so they wanted a cleanup of that, correct? That was Chris?
I would have to go look at the author.
So,
I try not to take everything on a level ground regardless of where it comes from.
No, they were trying to fix the first mistake. Does the word authorized create other problems by now having that specificity associated with it?
What do you mean not enough specificity?
No, having specificity that...
I don't think so. I mean, authorized by the delegated organization is fine. I mean, I don't... I tend to agree with you that it was pretty clear. Clearly, staff knew what to do with this and how to interpret it and the guidance it gave to the community on it. I don't think, frankly, it's necessary to spend a lot more time on this, one way or the other.
It's gone all through the process. I wanted to understand.
Right. Effectively, it's adding 3 words or 4 words.
5.
5. It's adding delegated to an organization.
And authorized.
Up here, John, look.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's a very small addition for the clarity of language, okay?
Rear center microphone.
Kevin Locke, QTS. So my only concern with this is it seems to be implying that ARIN is not just publishing registry information, but is also policing routes. Maybe this is fixing something that's already in there, but I really don't like the idea of ARIN being the internet police. I'd like the ARIN to be the publisher of accurate registrations. That's my only comment.
So you're for or against the proposal?
I'm still confused by it, so I'm not sure.
Fair point. Front center microphone.
Owen DeLong, ARIN AC. Policy-wise, this is a no-op. Clarification of language in the NRPM-wise, I think it does provide additional clarity. It is not ARIN becoming the routing police. I would strongly oppose it if it were. I actually do support it at this time. It is ARIN saying, we're not going to view you as violating policy if you're operating within the bounds of this particular text, because the original text before this note was added, it did potentially imply that, you know, for example, if you were a Starbucks, you were not allowed to hand out addresses to your Starbucks customers because they weren't part of your organization. I think adding this originally was rather pedantic, but okay, it made things more clear. What the heck? This is in that same vein, and you know, I believe that the horse is dead. It's been flogged enough, but I think that putting this in does provide some clarity that was previously lacking, and so I view it as mostly harmless and potentially somewhat beneficial to other people being able to read the NRPM that aren't immersed in this stuff and don't understand that staff just does the right thing when it's not super specific.
Thank you, Owen. Rear center microphone.
Mike Burns, IP Trading. I'm against this proposal. I don't want Aaron to decide what authorized means. I don't think it's important to have that in there. The delegated to an organization is a waste of words. I'm against it.
Thank you. Front center microphone.
Joe Provo, Google, Aaron AC. Support is written. The intent was merely to clarify, and I would ask folks in the room to please consider the non-native English speakers that are both in our region and outside of region that are going to run the NRPM through translation tools, and that this assists them in understanding our policy.
Thank you. Remote participant?
Nick K., has there been a problem in the past? Is this fixing a problem that does not exist?
We have not seen this potential problem actually occur. I don't have a case of someone reporting to Aaron transient use that might be a reassignment or a reallocation that is not adequately recorded. I'm not sure why they would bring that to us in any case, but we have not had it.
All right. Last call for participation. Front center microphone.
Anthony De La Cruz is requesting another joke from John.
We'll see what we can do at the appropriate time. All right. I would like to thank Christian for his presentation and ask you to join me. And at this point, we'll look for shows of support. So I ask those of you in the room to raise your arms high if you are in support of the proposal. And of course, those online to indicate for or against. All right, and those who are against the proposal, please raise your hand high. All right, thank you. Hey, John.
Hey, Bill.
Why'd the skeleton cross the road?
Why did the skeleton cross the road?
He had to get to the body shop.
Ah, very nice. How do vampires ship things?
I don't know,
Blood
John.
vessels.
Front center microphone is closed. No, I'm just joking. Go ahead, go on. Go ahead. I'm just joking.
And I propose that before we do another John joke, we do a show of hands whether we should do another John joke or not.
We will take your consideration to request before we deny it. All right. Total people in the room and remote participants, 111. Those in favor, 19. Those against, 2. We thank you for your feedback, and we will pass it along to the Advisory Council for consideration.